The Sacramento Kings, 46-36, finished ninth seed in the West, got to the play-in, beat Golden State in the first game of the play-in, then lost to the Pelicans in the second game, so ultimately out of the playoffs. Not going to be acceptable for them this year for a few different reasons, which I'll get to. Number one, for Mike Brown. He's been great for Sacramento. They got to the playoffs, ending their playoff drought previous year, not this past year. And that's great for the city of Sacramento. Hashtag like the beam, the whole 9 yards. They had this great story, lost in the first round to Golden State. Like, sounds all well and good. And then last year missed the playoffs. And as great as he's been for them, and I actually think he deserves to keep that job, there has been some speculation floating around that he'll lose his job if they don't get to the playoffs this year. So definitely, if you're Sacramento, you're trying to get to the top six. I think top six is a little bit out of reach. I kind of have in that 7 to 8 range right now. It definitely would be like catastrophic if they don't even make the play-in. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think there is a scare that they could be a play-in team, and why that's kind of bad. A, for Mike Brown's job. B, their first round pick is top 12 protected to Atlanta. But, if you get into the lottery, and you're not a guaranteed top 12, anything could happen there. So I'm Sacramento. I'm pushing hard for the seventh and eighth. Now, they traded for DeMar DeRozan in the offseason. They traded Harrison Barnes. Trade's a little strange from their perspective. Like, you're giving Harrison Barnes and a first round pick swap to San Antonio just to get off Barnes' contract, just to get DeMar DeRozan. And I would rather have Barnes personally. Like, DeMar DeRozan, he's a solid player, great in Chicago, but he's getting older, doesn't play a lick of defense, very ISO heavy, which, would be helpful for Sacramento for sure because they need some diversification of their offense. But you look at DeRozan, like he's very ISO heavy, as I said, not a good 3-point shooter, which is kind of a problem when you have Sabonis and him in the lineup, and new pickup of Jaden McDaniels. That's kind of problematic to have all that non-shooting. And then on top of that, between DeRozan, Fox, Sabonis, you have three guys who don't defend. Four if you count Malik Monk off the bench. And I guess I'll say Fox. He defended decently well 2 years ago, but I question the actual ability to be a consistent defender and to be a consistent 3-point shooter. Like, he shot well last year and he shot well the year before, but I want to see it as a consistent thing for him. So even if we take him out of that equation, DeMar DeRozan doesn't quite fit because Sacramento was already a great offensive team. They were historic 2 years ago and they're pretty good last year. So, like, okay. The argument I could see working in why you get DeRozan. All of the starters and all the core guys, they were worse from an efficiency standpoint last year, from a scoring perspective last year. They all kind of took dips from that year before. And actually, Sacramento, if I'm looking at this correctly, they were 18th in clutch offense, and DeRozan definitely helps that. But that also seems like a bit of an aberration because 2 years ago, De'Aaron Fox was clutch player of the year when they made the award. Like, it just. And he deserves some consideration last year, quite honestly. So I think DeRozan is a bit redundant in that respect. So to that end, what is DeMar DeRozan really getting you as far as ceiling? Because even if all three between Fox, DeRozan, Sabonis, they are super durable players, and that's great. But do you really think that that's getting you to a title? I don't think so. And I'm actually of the mind as DeRozan gets older that it would be better to play him off the bench, especially with this team. There's pretty solid depth if you look all around. Like, you have Keegan Murray, they're a young player who played pretty well for them 2 years ago. Like, can he sort of repeat that, and become this like cornerstone? I don't know if he's ever an all-star. Maybe he is. Who knows? You have Keon Ellis, who came out of nowhere last year and shot really well from three. I'm checking my notes. Sorry. 41% on three. And it was a great defensive piece. I am concerned because he's 6'3", but I do think he deserves a look potentially at the starting lineup. So you have him, Keegan Murray. I think McDaniel deserves a look. Now, McDaniel had some really strange, like, he had a really bad year last year in Toronto and Philly. Like, he was 10 minutes a game in Toronto, 17 in Philly, and only shot 17% from three. I hope that's just like an aberration in Mirage, because if you put McDaniel in the lineup, like, that's a really helpful player to have in Sacramento when they don't really play a lot of defense. So if it were up to me, I think your starting lineup is Fox, Ellis, although it's a size issue because they're both, Fox and Ellis are both undersized, but at least you get some defense there. I don't think I put DeRozan at the three, but you're probably going to put DeRozan at the three. Then you have Keegan Murray at the four, and then Sabonis at the five. And then you get a solid bench between like Trey Lyles. Now Trey Lyles is out with a groin injury, so he's out for training camp, but I assume he'll be back soon enough. You have I already said Ellis. You have Jordan McLaughlin, very solid point guard, backup point guard that they got from Minnesota. I think that would certainly um, add to the depth. I assume he's going to play meaningful minutes. You have Malik Monk still there. You have Alex Len there. Like, there's definitely like a good bench, a good core, a good rotation. Kevin Herter. Normally I'd put him in as starting. I think he should come off the bench because like he had shoulder surgery at the end of towards the end of the season, but he wasn't playing well. And I think at some point you have to look at putting him back in the starting lineup. But I think start him off the bench for the time being, see how he plays, go from there. And yeah, you look at that core, they're going to have to outscore people to win. I think they're at best like a first round, maybe second round playoff team, but I think with the West being so competitive, they're going to be seventh or eighth, maybe ninth seed, and then same old, same old. But if they're like, if all goes well, they sneak into the top six, top five, maybe, you know, who knows? Like that sort of offense is always dangerous, and I'm sure teams would hate facing in the playoffs.